Good afternoon and welcome to our series of Autodesk webinars. I'm Abel Sampson, publisher of Car Design News, and we have a great team here, a global team from Autodesk and some of their product ranges. We're going to be talking about a single digital pipeline. But before we get started, I've got to do a bit of housekeeping just to make sure you guys are all up to speed with if anything goes wrong. If you've got any questions for us as the organizers, there's a chat function. Please send us a note. We'll get the team. We've got Kat in the background who will be able to answer any of your questions. If you do have a dropout, don't panic. Just hit the refresh button, re-log in, and it will instantly come up. If you've missed anything, we have a raw recording within 24 hours. It will be online on Car Design News. And more importantly, if you've got any questions for the Autodesk team, please fill it out in the chat function. That will give an opportunity for me to ask at the end during the Q&A session any questions you may have. If you've got too many questions, we'll forward it to the guys and they'll come back to you directly. So anyway, enough from me. I'm going to welcome Phil into the conversation, and Phil's going to take the presenter rights and he's going to welcome in the Autodesk team. So it's all over to you, Phil.
Great, thanks, Abel. Can people see my camera? Oh, they can, excellent. Super duper. Right, hopefully people can see my screen as well. And crikey, here we are again. Well, good afternoon, good morning, good evening, everyone. Welcome to this, our third webinar from Autodesk. The one before we have our summer break. Don't worry, we're back in September with some more, just to keep you excited. And I'm here with my illustrious colleagues again, who maybe they should make their cameras visible if they can at the moment. I'm not too sure. I can't see their screens. But myself, Phil Botley, Alias Product Manager, Brandon Tasker, Shotgun, and Lucas VRED. You saw us all a few weeks ago talking about collaboration, and we're here really today to talk about a digital backbone and how we can actually, use all our tools together, whether that be a unified modeling pipeline with Alias, whether that be a master model concept with VRED, so we can take our data and use it all the way through engineering and into production and for PQ and marketing. And also Shotgun for managing our creative pipeline. And some of you will be aware of Shotgun, some of you won't be. So this is really an introduction to Shotgun and how we can begin to tie all these tools together. As we mentioned, this is a very relatively short presentation, 45 minutes. So we'll just give you a flavor of how these tools can be used in maybe 6 or 7 parts of the automotive design process. But of course, if you want more information, then feel free to contact us and we can give you more details on there. First of all, I'll just talk about some of the challenges that we're all facing as companies and beginning to overcome in these strange times. I read an article yesterday that essentially said we've collapsed 2 years of digital transformation into about 2 or 3 months, and we're beginning to see the benefits of this or the advantages of this with customers. I know the three of us are really super busy at the moment hosting events like this with customers and showing them how to move to a digital process, to move from clay to virtual and other components, but also how to collaborate globally. We've been assisting running design sessions between Korea, Germany, and America, using our tools to really make those decisions a lot faster and be better informed, but also connecting the processes. And this is the rationale, the logic behind this, between this backbone, right? So we can begin to plug in different tools, different processes, and have that seamless flow of the design data and process. And what really benefits, and what are the benefits it gives us? Well, it gives us a unified pipeline. So we can really standardize across teams with agile software updates and allow best-in-class practice. We have the agility to scale and move our teams. We discussed this the other week about having dual functionality between CAS and Class A. We really have the agility to put resource into peaks of workflow, but of course we can keep costs down, faster to market, and critically we can have we're beginning to build confidence in signing off virtual models, so we can make decisions a lot earlier in the process with confidence, which logically gives us enough time to or saves us time to focus on design creativity, or maybe improved quality in production. And when we talk about a modeling backbone, what do we, you know, it's a very esoteric thing. What do we mean? Well, normally, and this is a generic approach, you might have silos of changes where the geometries jumped over walls and passed from one to the other. And what we're really looking to do is looking to parallelize aspects of this process, critically allow us to reuse data from a modeling perspective, to bring engineering earlier into the process so we can make those decisions, we can begin to get our geometry released to engineering further into production and manufacture, but also begin to give us some quite significant time savings by reusing that alias data, by allowing us to remodel quickly or replace, and we'll see some of those examples later on. And this really allows us to have this kind of single modeling pipeline on top of a VRED virtual twin experience where we can take the data and we can use it all the way through to production and engineering. And also from a shotgun perspective, we can have creative pipeline management, so we can actually ensure that we're always working on the right data set. We always have the right visualization, we always have the right animation, and we can really begin to automate these parts and components. The three tools that we're going to look at today, which really constitute this this approach, are of course Alias and VRED and Shotgun, but that's not the whole story. All right, around the outside we have our sister products like Maya or Dynamo or Power Mill for milling the clay that we can use, and we also have a small sample of our extended ecosystem where we're partnering with ANSYS, Unity, and NVIDIA to begin to bake these products into our tools, into our pipeline, so we can really have that seamless data flow between these products and actually work to get the designs out faster and faster than before. As I said before, we're going to look at Alias, VRED, and Shotgun, and I'm obviously the Alias PM, so I'll talk a little bit about this very quickly, but I want to give a lot of the show to Lucas and to Brandon. Obviously, Alias is the concept of a single modeling pipeline from concept to Class A. And the objective really is to allow us to maintain and control design intent beyond engineering. So we can put our arms around design, right? We can take it right the way through, we can shepherd it through, you know, CAS, theme, Class A engineering, so we can ensure that we can get these really cool looking vehicles out and they can survive intact once they enter into engineering. And over that, I'll hand over to Lucas to talk about VRED.
Okay, so gotta unmute myself first. Welcome everybody. Yeah, just a quick intro for VRED for those who don't know. If you want to summarize what it is, as Phil already did, like in the process, it's a 3D visualization experience and decision-making platform. What it actually allows you to do is to quickly transform extensive amounts of digital design or engineering data into high-fidelity images, animations, real-time presentations that can be consumed on different devices or output devices like offline renderings, but also in virtual reality, on desktop, or on full-scale presentation environments. And yeah, VRED serves as the platform to gather all the information and supports the process, the actual creation process, as Phil showed a slide ago or 2 slides ago. And 2 aspects that I wanted to highlight for VRED here is, one is that gathering, preparing, and managing of the data is something that VRED is very powerful at, and keeping the visualization stream of data in sync with the creation stream, but also allowing you to flexibly choose on how to use and how to, I don't know, review or showcase the data that you gathered and produced here. One aspect that I want to point out that you can see on that slide is the master model concept. So VRED is not about creating different files for different use cases, it's the other way around. Our customers usually create this one big file where they add all the data that's created throughout the process, and it's not, it is mainly or a lot alias data, but also other files, and not even only geometry, but also HMI files like interactive display types. In general, VRED is used for, or you would use that master model for a design review. This is a very generic term, so it's depending on which stage you are in the process, what aspects you want to review. Could be rather lightweight data or a 150% model that you're reviewing. But this is more or less the core functionality for VRED. But as you can see with a Porsche example, which is from a webinar or from a presentation they gave at AU 2018, they assemble this big file and use it for different disciplines like surface analysis, tolerance visualization, reflection studies, light design, media production, real-time presentations, obviously virtual reality use cases like review, ergonomic studies, end-user customer experience, HMI visualization, technical visualization, and even perceived quality. So yeah, I think I would just wanted to make clear that there is this approach of creating this one file to serve all the different needs throughout the process, and yeah, accompanying the creation process with a visual base that you could take decisions on or have a communication or collaboration based upon.
Great, thanks, Lucas. We'll hear more from Lucas later on in this presentation, and that's really a kind of a slight overview of what VRED can do from the master model concept. Shotgun, of course, is about connecting people, tools, and workflows, and here's Brandon. So you have just a quick overview of Shotgun before we begin to explore some of its themes and characteristics. Over to you, Brandon.
Yeah, thanks, Phil. Hey, everybody. So yeah, maybe you've heard a bit about Shotgun already. As Phil mentioned, it might be new to a lot of our audience out there. So what I'm going to talk about today is how Shotgun can really help kind of hold your hand between all of the different departments and functions throughout the creative process that you see here. So how Shotgun can really help be that creative pipeline between all of the different tools and departments and functions and everything that's going on in the studio, so that teams can work in a more parallelized format, as Phil mentioned. So as design time decreases, as teams are allowed to work quicker and faster or forced to work quicker and faster, how do you continue to work efficiently? And we're going to talk today a little bit and give you some examples of how Shotgun can help these types of handoffs and store a lot of the extra information just to make everybody's life easier on a day-to-day basis in the studio.
Great, thanks, Brandon. So that's what we're going to hear from the three of us today. And when we talk about this continuous pipeline, we're going to use a number of kind of stages, and we simplified it a bit for this presentation. We're going to look at how we can use the tools in a styling context. How do we make decisions, informed decisions? How do we visualize? How do we work with the clay? How do we manage data? How does Shotgun manage and interact with clay data? From a Class A perspective, what are we doing for design reviews and selection? Engineering, how can we go into engineering? And of course, beyond engineering, from a production perspective, whether it be marketing or configurators, as Lucas says, you know, if we've created the data, we can actually create once and use many times, right the way through into PQ and other areas. And so we'll have a few examples of how we can do that, and of course how we tie it all together through this creative management tool of Shotgun and with our modeling and visualization pipelines. So first of all, we'll look at styling and you know, the tools that we know most, and really over to Brandon to talk about Shotgun and how we can organize your project.
So starting right off in the styling phase, you know, the first thing you really want to do is figure out what it is you're going to build, right? When you start a design project, you don't just start building anything. There's lots of inputs that come into the project to determine what you're going to build, between, you know, marketing details or market research, but you're always coming in with a plan. And this is where Shotgun can help, because you can figure out who is going to build what, when they're going to build it for, what they're going to build. And all of these components are now easily set into components that you can deliver work against, review work against, and it's all organized in one simple and visual system. So next slide, Phil. And with that, once you start tracking and organizing all the work that you're going to do in Shotgun, you can start doing work against it. So here's a really simple example of somebody creating some design work and just doing a simple drag and drop publish using Sketchbook. Looks like this video is not looping, or it's just gone to black now. But essentially, yeah, if you can just play it again, Phil. Essentially, all we do is create a simple design. We can drag and drop it into the Shotgun ecosystem, and we can talk about more details about this in other talks. But then you can track this right against a design task, which is assigned to a design project, so it's all interlinked. You really easily know who's doing this design work, when it's due, and what the result of that design work actually is. All right, next slide.
I think that's me. So apologies for that, Brandon. I thought I'd looped all the videos.
No worries.
Down to my lack of PowerPoint skills. So as Brandon says, once we begin to organize a project and use Shotgun to drive the project and to dip in and out of managing the project, we then get into the modeling phase. And of course, this is the tool that a lot of us use, which is Alias, which we know very well. And this allows us to have this single modeling pipeline, which, whether it be doing creative VR, modeling in 3D space, or fast form finding with subdivision, right the way through to to what we know our bread and butter, square, bi-rail surfacing tools, working collaboratively with the team, so we can have all our team members working together, but also now new features in Alias, so we can begin to have the beginning of parametrics or curve and surface replace workflows, so we can begin to actually build geometry once and replace it and rebuild it hundreds, if not thousands of times. And then of course our scanning tools, so we can begin to actually work on the scan data moving forward, as well as everyday surfacing tools that we use. We're beginning to automate difficult and procedural tasks. So we have computational design baked into Alias, Dynamo being an example of that. So we can actually control quite sophisticated changes in geometry from a simple slider. We can control the number of spokes, we can control the rads or the angles, and we can actually begin to automate these quite complicated and tedious tasks, so we can make better decisions, or we can make decisions better and quicker. And this is really the beginning of understanding and capturing and reusing design language. Once we've obviously finished the Alias model, we're ready to hand it off to VRED. But of course, as Brandon will explain, we go via Shotgun.
And yeah, so really think about Shotgun as kind of holding your hand through the design process. And by doing that, what we can do is really add some structure around that process, and honestly make it easier for users to hand work off between different departments or tools or functions, as I mentioned. But also enforce some rigor and regiment into that, whatever that is. Each studio has different processes or different requirements they need at certain milestones, but you can help and use Shotgun to enforce those. So a simple example here is the publish out of Alias. So Shotgun integrates with Alias, VRED, Photoshop, Sketchbook, Maya, all of the Autodesk, or most of the Autodesk tools, and a lot of non-Autodesk tools as well. Shotgun has out-of-the-box integrations for. And what you can do with this is you can publish this work, so it's now tracked again against a specific task that a specific person is working on, and you can add extra automations onto that. So we have really simple examples out of the box. You can see here, published to different formats. So for your studio, if every time you publish an Alias file and you want to include a cat part, make sure that that can be picked up by engineering at any given time, you can enforce that. If you'd like to change the name so it's not just generic and it's just an Alias translation, but a specific publish to engineering, you can take that, or publish to fabrication. You can take the power of Shotgun to customize these specific line items in little checkboxes to do more things that you'd want in behind the scenes. So moral of the story is you can make some really nice and simple tools for your users to enforce these standards while making it really simple from the user end to hand work off between multiple departments.
I mean, essentially what you're saying there, Brandon, is that no longer we don't just have to save a wire file. We can automate it. So if we need to save a cat part or a JT file or anything, Shotgun will take care of that and do that for us. We don't have to think about it.
Yeah, exactly. And it can help also enforce folder structures. That's something you can pick to choose if you want to. So if your studio already works in a Windows folder structure that's predefined and you have to put files in certain spots, Shotgun can help do that for you, which means that you never have to worry about where you're saving the file anymore. It sounds like maybe a small detail, but it really is huge in the grand scheme of things, because Shotgun's going to put it in the expected place every single time, depending on what task you're working on, what project it belongs to. So there's redundancy. You always know where these files are. They can be backed up and enforced all the time. So there's always a history, and users don't need to interact with the file system. They don't need to go through it and find and search for stuff. They go through Shotgun, which is a simple interface, simple way to find the work you're looking for. And it just takes some of that overhead that a lot of users would Maybe not notice is a challenge, but it is when you're constantly scrolling through huge file systems and file structures. So yeah, totally.
Yeah, okay, yeah, it's pretty cool.
And a quick example of that is actually being able to access this publish data. So when you create a publish in Shotgun, you're really creating an entry in Shotgun database. And that means you can go and find this information from other products. So in VRED, a really simple example is we can now see this publish that we've done in Alias. You don't have to look for it again in that file system. You can quickly click at the high level. You can see all the versions that have been created by that Alias modeler, what their comments were on each version they made as well, so you know what's happened. And you can import it into your scene. You could create a reference out of this, a smart reference of some kind if you wanted to as well, to extend that capability. But you have a lot of control over how you hand off information between different teams and have it really nice and easy to do.
Right, thanks, Brandon. So I mean, that's pretty cool in terms of actually automating and taking some of the pain out of that process. That's neat.
Mm-hmm. And again, all of these publishes are going to be visible in the web browser. So in the main Shotgun application, which is really about your project tracking review process. So, you know, in our tool sets between Alias, VRED, and Shotgun, there are ways you can review work in many different forms. But what Shotgun can really help in reviewing this information is keeping track of all of those notes from any place. So I'll give some more examples later about how you can get your notes out of, let's say, an Alias or a VRED session and get them stored in that Shotgun structure. So again, your notes are linked to a task. That person is assigned to that task. That task is in a project. You have this inherent structure that is automatically enforced just by having a file open and just by making a note. So it can be super valuable.
Yeah, yeah.
So as I said, I'm just going to show you in a second what that looks like. So a really quick example, when you're using the Shotgun integrations, and this works in all of our integrated products, but I'm showing Alias as an example. Here, we're just using the Alias drawing tools, so the paint tools. I can draw over a part of the vehicle that are part of the surface. Let's say I want to make a note on, and I can use the Shotgun panel, which the Shotgun panel is like a heads-up display about the project that you're working on in Shotgun that you can see right in Alias. I can click on the little camera icon. I can put a text right in a note, and I can capture this. And so this note is now being stored in the Shotgun database, in the Shotgun application. That note can be assigned to a user to specifically follow up to for the next review. This note now can act as a checklist too for that user. So you're never walking away from a review going, okay, did I write down all the notes that I had? Instead, you don't have to write down the notes. You can just add them digitally. They're going to be tracked. You can go through and check them off when they're done by changing the status to complete. And now you know you've addressed all the notes for the next review. You're prepared, you're ready, and you also have a history of all the decisions that were made, all the notes that were taken in that review. So that's pretty simple, but super powerful in the long term in all of your ways of reviewing. So as I said, you could do this in a VRED session too. If you have VRED open and we're doing an interactive review in any form, you could do that with Shotgun as well.
So a pretty neat way of managing and not losing any data and keeping track of all your changes and notes. That's pretty cool. Thanks for that, Brandon. And then of course we get on to VRED. You know, we've actually, I just paused for a second, Lucas. You know, we've actually done, you know, the Alias work. We've got it into Shotgun. We're checking it. You know, we're working with Shotgun to manage it, do design reviews, and then we really want to actually do the theme selection and over to VRED and Lucas.
Yeah, so if we get the data handed over, let's say we are at a stage where the team decided, okay, let's put that up for a review to decide which theme to go with, or whether that, yeah, we're fine to go with a certain route. Obviously, it's about quickly getting data to a realistic state, but also preserving and presenting the design intent and the emotional intent, which is very important at the beginning, especially of a car design process. So yeah, that's something where you can use VRED. It's very easy to do that, to convert the data. You can choose the way to present as well. So you could do that on a Powerwall, but you could also, as you see it here, do it in a remote VR collaboration session, for example. if all the stakeholders, let's say, are fine with, or if you think it's the appropriate output format, then you can choose it freely for the purpose. And obviously this supports the selection process, and also like you feel more comfortable to make a decision because you reach that, let's say, lifelike realistic state quite easily, quite quickly, and define the route to pursue for your vehicle design early in the process already. And next slide.
Yeah.
Already mentioned it quickly or briefly, a global VR design review. Bringing a car to market is a collaborative effort, right? So collaborating is a core competency we build into VRED, like rendering or like data preparation. Is like collaborating, like exchanging information and working together. So here you can see ways of collaborating in virtual reality, but it's not just limited to virtual reality. You can literally use any desktop Powerwall cluster to join a mobile device, to join a collaborative session globally. As Phil already mentioned at the beginning, it doesn't matter where you are on the planet, and it doesn't matter which device you have. You can join the session and communicate, interact. I don't want to go too much into detail here because we talked about that 2 weeks ago, I think, the collaborative aspect of our products. And even better, one of our customers, Ford, did a car design news webinar a month ago or 1.5 months ago about exactly this topic. So I would just encourage you to get the first-hand experience of one of our customers by reviewing the car design news webinar from Ford about the design collaborative design review in virtual reality. Cool.
Great, thanks, Lucas. And I always have a smile on my face when I see those videos. And Lucas and I were, well, Lucas showed me a video last week of one of our customers using that review, but they'd customized the avatars into something else, which is really quite funny. I can't talk about it, but it was really, really good to see it. For those of you who don't know, you can change the avatars. You can put different avatars in there if you don't want to. Although Barry Kimball might be a bit miffed because he modeled those in Alias. But anyway, so I digress. So we've seen how at the styling stage we can, we work with Alias, and we can work with VRED, and we can work with Shotgun to, to do design reviews, to check, to manage, and to do those components. But these are also, applicable in the clay phase. We can actually begin to continue to use those processes such as Shotgun in our clay world.
Yeah, so we have some customer examples that are actually using this right now, and they found Shotgun actually extremely beneficial to clay, where as they've brought TVs or big screens in around the clay studio, so they can have the latest snapshots and images of designs and models that are being created, always up to date. They don't have to go in and find it; it's visual and it's there. My quick example I have here to show you in a video, which is really you can now also have clay users being able to sign into Shotgun. You can give them a very simplified kind of home page that they land on. And for this example, maybe we only show them models that are ready for clay to be milled, for example. So a model could have a certain status, it's approved, ready to be milled, and you know that somebody signed off on that specifically. So you're milling the right model at the right time. Once that is done, there the video is restarting. I can talk specifically to it. Sorry, it was restarting, Phil. It was fine.
Oh, sorry, my fault.
No worries. Yeah, the process about this is that you can have a nice simple page, give the team only the information they need, really streamlined, and then once they get the information they want, they can get it out of Shotgun whatever way. Shotgun isn't storing your information or your data inside of it. It's just linking to it, so you have access to all of your data already. But what we can do here is we scan that data back in. Maybe we've added some digital pictures too with the camera SLR. We can again just drag and drop those into the Shotgun publishing tools. We can connect those to the clay task itself, and we can publish them into the system. So now we have the scan that's being tracked by Shotgun as well. And the CAS modeler can take that scan, they can access it via the Shotgun loading tools. They can really easily find that, find the latest scan data, load it into their scene really easily, and start rebuilding the surfaces against that. So again, this is really just about easing that handoff and holding the hand of the user throughout this process, and it's exchanging data between multiple users and multiple departments that, sometimes aren't always on the same page or need to communicate more to get that work done. Shotgun makes it a lot easier for them to do that.
Yeah, thanks, Redman. That's a pretty neat way of actually, sort of connecting the two. Both, with Alias, we can connect it with scanning and with surfacing and with machining, of course, with our tools. But that data or seeing where that data is no longer a problem. We can find it easily with Shotgun. We can manage it, so we know it's on Joe's machine or it's in Bob's system. We can access it immediately without having to go and find it. And that links into what we're doing with the Alias tools, of course, where we're looking to actually really get the scan to surface to machining almost in a one-button approach. So we can actually just press send to Power Mill with a one-button approach, or automatic surfacing tools that we have in Alias, to begin to really speed up that process and really rebuild the model very quickly from even small, subtle, localized design changes. So we don't have to worry about CNCing the whole lot again. We can just localize certain areas, and we can focus on key areas. So something that which we showed a few weeks ago, and we sort of showed last year, was work we've done with Colb to automatically apply the clay from the scanning arm. So a localized area, squirt the clay on, mill it off, and we get the change of the shape and the design moving forward. So as well as the physical side and the virtual side, of course, we also have the visualization side, which Lucas will talk about.
Yeah, so an adjacent topic is the word interior color and trim for interior selection. Here we go. So there's several approaches you could take for color and trim, and I think one of the core things to what VRED's capable of is managing the, let's say, the eventual variance of all the different variation combinations. But at the beginning, you want to start exploring materials, right? So you could do that two ways. Either you have a library of, let's say, accurately measured, like scanned materials that you can use in VRED based on your physical material library, as you can see it on the right video, and you just can have a very easy way to assign them via this example application by just clicking, touching, using a touchscreen. So it's not even related to your, let's say, visualization expertise on how you could explore combinations of materials. It's just something very intuitive. You could design it in a way everybody could use it. But something very interesting as well is doing it the other way around, starting digital for example, with the integration of the Adobe Substance procedural materials in VRED, and playing around, creating, designing the material, and then maybe handing this off as a base or guidance for a material manufacturer. So yeah, having the full flexibility to start with and explore it digitally, which gives you way more freedom, but also you can do it the way that's, I don't know, the proven way, going the route from physical, applying it to the digital model, and having that in sync and being sure that it's exactly that material measured accurately, represented correctly in VRED. And yeah, as I said, it's easy to use, so you don't need expertise or heavy performant machines to do this task.
So it's kind of a real virtual twin there, Lucas, right? Physical and virtual hand in hand.
Yeah. And for all disciplines, I think that's the important thing, right? We are combining the materials with the shapes, geometry, plus HMI content, which is a good segue to the next slide, I think.
It is. If my there we go.
Which is HMI. Just talked about it. So this is in addition to the master model concept. We also, of course, as HMIs are important and getting more and more important in the interior, part of the interior design or the car design in general, we made that an addition to our master model concept as well. So you can easily import and assign HMI assets, design assets from each state. If it's just a screenshot of a, let's say, a mood, how the display should look finally, you can import that and apply it to the screen, the digital screen. If it's already an animation, an image sequence, you can use that and play it to give a, I don't know, like a way how the designer imagines the HMI is going to react. But, and that's most important, we also are able to import the final interactive HMI design and use it in VRED. So this enables you to, let's say, import the final interactive HMI design, maybe HTML5 or based on Kansai or Qt technology, whatever you choose. We have an open approach to that. Import it, assign it to the materials, and then you can use virtual reality to review the HMI design and interact with it using your hands in virtual reality and experiencing it in context of the overall car, right? You're sitting in the virtual car. Some of our customers even push that further, like Porsche in this example, and they combine this final experience with a seat bug. So you're sitting in virtual reality, reviewing in a physical seat bug, which is overlaid by the virtual digital twin, and you are playing around with or exploring the HMI design, reviewing the HMI design, while getting feedback from touching the real seat bug, which is awesome. So you can push this to whatever extent you want to.
Yeah, no, that's good. Thanks, Lucas. But of course, if we have all these components, whether they're materials, HMI scripts, how on earth do we manage them? Brandon.
Thanks, Phil. So the great thing about Shotgun is it's super customizable. It's really just tracking information in your project. So a really simple example here is we've added the ability for Shotgun to track HMI components. So you're going to have a bunch of different components at a high level. So here we have, the vehicle controls, which is mainly the start and stop of the engine buttons, and I don't even know what the other two buttons were. The temperature and AC controls in the interior of the vehicle, and then like the heads-up display, the cluster in the front of the driving area. So all three of these we've made as components in Shotgun, and the HMI team can work and publish work against these components using existing Shotgun tools. Right out of the box, this would be super simple to use and to set up, and also make it easy to visually track what HMI components are being built, what are they being built for, and then to feed them into the VRED master model ecosystem. They're available, they're ready at any time to be accessed and used. So it's just a nice simple example about how you can use Shotgun to track more information than just your modeling data or your VRED data.
Yeah, it's a real kind of asset manager there, I think, Brandon, in terms of actually managing all those components which are used to build up your virtual model. That's pretty neat. So we've looked at styling, and we've looked at we've looked at the class A. We know a lot about that, but we can also use Shotgun here. Can you explain a bit of this about Brandon?
Yeah. So again, these are all some things that we've talked about previously in this call, but at any time during the process, you can use Shotgun to capture notes. So if you're doing this in Class A, you can capture detailed surfacing notes using these different integration tools. You can, again, visually track all these parts and assemblies that are being built using Alias inside of Shotgun. You can see a hierarchy of how they relate to each other, what that hierarchy would look like, and also the progress of each part or each section of the vehicle that is having its Class A service done. And at the end of that, I think I already gave you the example of that handoff to engineering, but you can really easily do that handoff to engineering. And a bunch of examples we're working on with some customers as well is how to talk to the PDM system the customer uses. I think I'm going to have another section to talk about this, but Shotgun isn't going to replace your PDM system. We're not trying to do that at all in any respect, but helping that communication between your design studio to the engineering is really key and important, and being able to use these Shotgun publish milestones to say, I also want to take this data, package it up in a certain way with certain construction options, tolerances, formats, whatever it may be, and share that with engineering, albeit putting it in their PDM system, alerting them in some sense or the other, can be done using the Shotgun tools. So yeah, that's a summary of all the different kind of aspects that Shotgun can help with there.
Yeah, and then that's really cool. And just to echo Brandon's point, I mean, we're doing a lot of work with many customers on this, and I've seen one example in production now where we've completely virtualized the physical DKM or fees and function cube model, where you might have 300 odd stickers on there, and it's all inside of Alias and VRED, but all managed from Shotgun. And you can go to any section of the car, pick up the notes, see the attached photograph or a sketch or a note, and it's a real virtual representation or recreation of a physical DKM or function cube design review. So pretty cool, but it's all saved and notated, and you know where it is. You don't have to go and, well, where do I put my post-it notes? So from the modeling side, again, one of the aspects that we're doing with customers at the moment is the ability to rebuild, reuse, replace, and mature cast data into Class A. The time is coming where if we can solve aspects of patch planning and we can cross-train teams, why do we have to throw away the alias data? We should be able to mature and rebuild and replace it and evolve it to ensure that it gets to a stage where it's usable downstream in production. And this is really what we're doing with customers at the moment to begin to take that journey and husband it from sub-D into NURBS, into Bezier, into production surfacing, allowing us to rebuild geometry, replace geometry, and any engineering updates, we can now have them change and rebuild automatically. And of course, we're beginning to save and create feature libraries, so we can have a set of components that if we change the parameters, they will rebuild automatically and replace the geometry also. So we're getting to a fairly intelligent stage in Alias where we can actually not only begin to mature that geometry across the surfacing lifetime, but we can actually replace it and intelligently rebuild it automatically. So we don't have to manually rebuild this anymore, and we can get to a stage where we can actually begin to collapse the Class A phase and blur the boundaries between the two components. Over to Lucas with what do we do with that data post Class A?
Yeah, that's one of the core areas, the dynamic data visualization, real-time review, whatever you want to call it, core areas for VRED, right? Interactive design review, meaning it's in motion. Either the car's in motion or the camera is in motion or light is in motion, something is moving, because just looking at a static image doesn't make it. If you want to take those very important decisions that our customers are taking based on VRED models, you need to be accurate, or you need to choose the right amount of accuracy based on the use case, so people can confidently take a decision, because eventually VRED initially VRED was started to reduce, not replace, but reduce the amount of clay or physical prototypes, not just clay, right, but physical prototypes. So you have to be able to review the car digitally in a similar or same way as you would with a physical prototype, which is moving your head, seeing how the light, shape, materials behave to each other, and how the shapes are formed by the light and the materials. And as I said, the accuracy for this very, let's say, generic use case for VRED or core use case, which can be applied in different stages of the workflow, is flexible. You could choose one machine and have a rather lightweight rendering mode, but you can use the same data set, same software, and have hundreds of nodes or GPUs computing, as you can see here in this video, a beautiful true-to-life representation of the digital prototype to allow everybody involved in the process to confidently take the decision on certain aspects of the car. Yeah, and it's independent of hardware. As I said, in this case, it was GPU, but could be CPU rendered and could be scaled up and down depending on the needs. Back to you, Phil.
Great, thanks for that, Lucas. I mean, that's, again, I always smile when I see that video. Really awesome. A great job by the guys. And of course, a lot of people think that it stops at surface release, right? But no, our tools and our pipeline goes and stretches into engineering and beyond. For example, we work seamlessly with assemblies in Alias, and we can manage team Alias assemblies at the moment. We can read native products and parts and other components, and we'll be able to seamlessly link between MCAD assemblies, which is really quite important. But we also go beyond that. So we also really want to actually put a layer on top of that, so we can integrate in the PDM system. As Brandon says, we can play nicely, we can work seamlessly with some PDM systems, so we can check the data in and out. So we can always be working on the most up-to-date data. We can release alias surfaces with the security and the knowledge that it's safe in residing in those PDM systems, so we can use it all the way downstream, which really gets us into that sort of engineering mindset. But it's not just surfacing, it's visualization again. And lo and behold, here's VRED. And what's VRED doing here, Lucas?
Yeah, so as you see, this is really showing or demonstrating the images how capable of handling a lot of data VRED is, right? This is the full car, every screw, every bolt, everything. And a lot of our customers export that automatically or have semi-automatic ways to get that out of PDM systems, as Phil said, or created based on referencing to the original files, going back to the initial case or the initial point that we discussed. But also we provide a lot of tools to, I would say, facilitate engineering validation discussions and conversations. So a lot of smaller tools like being able to measure, also measure very specific auto-specific things like gaps between different parts of the car. So that's out-of-the-box tools for VRED. But also, and that's quite interesting, again, the PQ or visual validation is something where VRED actually came from. So we weren't started in design, but heavily used now, but originally coming from the engineering application, because VRED is so capable of accurately rendering, the light interacting with materials. That was something that's very helpful for the later stage of the process to make sure that everything is fine. There's no problems, or problems are spotted as early as possible, and especially having again this data that allows facilitation and communication between different departments, even between design and engineering, to make sure you find that common solution or common ground for your joint goal of creating a awesome car that customers will like.
Yeah. I remember we were on the trip a couple of years ago, Lucas, where we saw one customer who'd taken the complete engine from the CAD package and with the kinematics and the vibration, and we saw a live animation of it inside of VRED. So they'd taken not just the data, but also the animation, the vibration, the kinematic motion, and we saw it in VRED. So it's a really exciting use by a customer to take the VRED data into engineering and PDM. And I think Brandon's going to tell us now how Shotgun works or works with PDM systems.
Yeah, thanks, Phil. So as I just mentioned a couple minutes ago, whereas I really see, and I think our whole team really sees, that Shotgun is not trying to replace any sort of PDM system in engineering. Shotgun's for visual, creative, project management, tracking really a lot of the design studio. Where we want it to really be strong is how it overlaps with those PDM systems and how you can have good communication between the design departments and engineering. So what that actually looks like in practice is these kind of handoffs like I alluded to earlier, which is how can we do a simple handoff from the design studio to engineering? How can engineering see inside of Shotgun and understand where design is in the process, what things they're working on, and make sure that they can be ready to react or add feedback whenever necessary. So it's really about blurring those lines between where does design end and where's engineering. We already know there's so much overlap and so much back and forth that exists. So how do we make that easier? And I think in a lot of the ways, Shotgun can make that easier by being a source for visual notes and tracking of that information, whether they're specific service requests that need to go back to the design teams, the modelers, to fix surfaces specifically for engineering. All that information can be tracked and used in Shotgun, and then follow it up to make sure, that they get everything that they need when the model goes back to engineering for that time.
Great, thanks, Bradley. Well, that's like an overview of what we do on the engineering side. But again, it goes a bit beyond there also in terms of production and marketing and configurators. Maybe not so much Alias here, but certainly something from the VRED is very well known for. And here's Lucas to talk us through what we're seeing on the screen here.
Yeah, so as we already said, VRED is going from the start, the early creation of 3D data, supporting the process till the, let's say, end or very end to the marketing POS point of view. So when you really try to, help selling the awesome car that you created, And creating marketing assets like images or movies is, I guess, a no-brainer at this point. I already explained that this is possible without any problems with VRED based on the same data set again, but also drive real-time POS systems like touchscreen-based systems in a dealership, or remote-controlled systems, or even using VRED as an engine for online configurators, which some of our customers are doing. And customer experiences in virtual reality, maybe to convince or to help a customer choose and define the car he really wants, like customize it towards his imagination as good as possible. So the virtual reality aspect here is coming from design to marketing, where we first try to get as close as possible to the end user experience by designing it, and then allowing using the same data set or a very similar, maybe a bit richer data set with some other environment and things like that, to allow the customer to configure a digital car which he's eventually ending up buying, and taking better decisions, also be happier with the final result, because he already experienced what he bought and what he configured himself, right? And it's an exciting thing, but it's also something that makes sure that the customer gets what he really wants. And again, I keep repeating myself a little bit, but Phil said it as well. It's very important here that you save the time for the data preparation, right? It's not going into a very different tool to completely recreate all the materials, variants, and everything. You're staying in the same tool, and this is really saving time and obviously eventually money, while allowing the customer more flexibility and a better experience by purchasing a car.
Yeah, no, thanks, Lucas. That's really good. And it's a real good example of creating the data once and using it multiple times, right away across, beyond surface release, beyond design, into beyond engineering, and into production and marketing. And of course, you know, it wouldn't be Shotgun if Shotgun wasn't helping here. Brandon, how does Shotgun help us here?
Yeah, I think this can be a quick one. Shotgun really being born in the animation and visual effects studios, Shotgun really easily knows how to track and organize shots, sequences, all the assets. So if you're working in a traditional style animation or visualization pipeline like that, Shotgun's gonna be super easy to use to track that project and make sure your end product is complete and done and looks beautiful.
Yeah. And it's we're almost running out of time, so I'll wrap up quite quickly. But Brandon makes a really good point, and we didn't touch on it here because we're looking on Alias and VRED and Shotgun. But you know, Shotgun's used wall to wall in M&E, media and entertainment. So any film that you might have seen before lockdown at the cinema, which had CGI in, will have been managed by Shotgun. You know, teams working remotely, thousands, tens of thousands of people working, but that's where it really cuts its teeth. So this is the bread and butter stuff for you know, for Shotgun. So with that, a very, very quick overview of what our tools can offer from a modeling pipeline or a visualization and a creative pipeline. You know, the idea that we have is to have a single modeling pipeline sitting on top of a VRED virtual twin experience, where we have the data, we create it once, we can use it many, many times across the process, and with our Shotgun managing our creative pipeline, making sure we're always working on the most up-to-date model. We can hand it off to Viz can hand it back, we can hand it to the animation department, and then we can actually work with all the assets. From an Alias perspective, that means we can maintain and control design intent beyond and into engineering. We can put our hands around it and our arms around it. We can protect it. From a VRED perspective, we have a master model concept. You know, we create this data, as Lucas said, and we can have lightweight data for various applications. We can use it all the way through to HMI or PQ or to point of sale things. But this whole concept of a master data model, create once, use multiple times. And then, of course, we have our creative pipeline, which, as Brandon eloquently explained, allows us to keep up to date of the data, see which is the most up-to-date data, connect the components, you know, not check data, but hand data over to different departments, but always be confident that we're working on the most up-to-date and the right data. And this really gives us many, many benefits, or give customers many, many benefits, but critically, this allows us to really save time, and we can use that time to spend more time designing, to be more creative, or to be, you know, to get a production quality. And I think that's the key here. Yeah, these tools are enablers, whether it be the automation of computational design or the master model concept or the creative pipeline. These are enablers to free up more time to allow us to design, to allow us to get the products that we want to give to our customers, that we think our customers deserve, but also allow us to be more creative. And I think that's really the most exciting outcome of the time that we're in at the moment. Also, we're seeing it with customers that we're working with currently, where they're just being more creative at the moment because these tools are just assisting them. And that's the take-home message really that I want to say. These are just enablers to allow you as users to be more creative with the tools and to get better designs done faster and quicker. Thank you for watching. As I said, this was a very short, compressed webinar. We take a break now. We'll be back in September with some more webinars, so stay tuned. And with that, I shall hand over to Abel for any questions and answers. Thank you.
Yes, thanks, Phil, Brandon, and Lucas. That was super interesting. And one of my questions I did want to ask is, Brandon, to you. I mean, this relationship between design and engineering is quite pickled, isn't it? You know, they really don't like each other. So suddenly you're offering them an opportunity to work together. As Phil said, I guess time is the biggest benefit here. How has the car industry embraced that? You know, you're making that relationship easier to transfer the information across. How have they embraced it?
Yeah, I mean, it's definitely a challenge that everybody knows that they have, right? And making it just producing, sorry, what am I trying to say? Just showing it off is easy, but actually implementing it is much harder because you're dealing with people and you're dealing with workflows that people have been doing for a long time. So while our customers definitely know and are looking at ways to do it, it's not easy. It is a challenge because you need to really work with peoples and their personas and how they feel about how they work every day. Because you're going to start to change a little bit of how they work. But at the end of the day, it's not drastically different. It's improving the process to make everybody get along and work better together. So customers are really embracing it because they know that at the end of the day, if they can get more time, they can save more effort, they can build better vehicles, they can do what they want, which is usually what we hear from designers is better designs. Engineers want to make a more perfect surface, lighter, better, everything. Everybody wants to be better. They never really want to do less. So if we're given that option, they're doing whatever they can to take it.
Yeah, but I've got a question for Lucas. You know, how did it feel when, you know, we're in lockdown and Ford are openly talking about VRED? They're actually, you know, sticking their necks out in the sense they've got people in California and Germany and even in Detroit, all online doing it. You know, how did that make you feel on and is that a shift that most of car makers are making where they're really embracing it and being quite open about it?
Yeah, I think it's two aspects, right? One is that they are more open about it, which I really like because everybody can benefit from sharing experience and it shouldn't be, I don't know, like too competitive, right? At the end, they are competitors, but it's like we know in other industries like M&E where Brandon's tool is coming from, there's a lot of emphasis on communities and ecosystems that are sharing experience and everybody's benefiting from that. Something that makes me explicitly proud, obviously, as the VRED PM is seeing people or being able to help people, especially in this situation. Before it was awesome already, and then Ford, to be fair, like used VRED customized for virtual reality collaboration globally since 2011. So even before we integrated the feature natively, they already had their custom extension on VRED to do that. But to answer your question, it really makes me proud as the VRED PM to see that we are able, or the whole team and the efforts that our team puts in is helping people to stay connected, collaborate, do the great stuff they do continuously while facing those challenges. And I'm very happy to see the automotive industry being more outgoing, transparent on how they approach problems, because eventually the whole industry will benefit from that. So really like that.
I've got a question for Brandon and probably for Lucas as well. I mean, is there a potential that there could be an app for this? Is this something that you're considering?
Sorry, what do you mean?
An app on an application on the App Store, or something that people can download and have a lighter version on their mobile device. And
So
are we looking at that?
I think let me start, Brendan. I think you have an answer to that as well. VRED, with 2021, we are able to stream VRED to any device. So you can use mobile devices without an app. You can just use a VRED that's hosted somewhere in the cloud and then connect your device to it and collaborate. And also you can join this collaborative session through a mobile device, through a VRED in the cloud. So it's even better, you don't need an app because you can just use your browser for it. And I guess Brendan, Brendan?
Yeah, I have a similar answer. So Shotgun historically has had an iOS app. It's since been deprecated just because really a lack of usage. Most of our user base is still within studios, still working on computers. And because Shotgun is accessible from a browser, it's really not hard to get at from a laptop or a tablet. So having an app didn't add a ton of value in the case of our customers' needs. That could be revisited again in the future as things change, but I think it's very similar to what Lucas said, is there's a lot of function already available, and things that we're looking at improving between connecting workflows will just make those more useful using your standard browser from any device wherever you are. So
yeah. Okay, I've got one question as well. How many people can have access to Shotgun on one project? Is there a limit, or?
No, there isn't. So we have some very large customers that use Shotgun in their studios, thousands of users at a time. Shotgun's really scalable by the infrastructure you run it on or the infrastructure that you run it on. So it's available as a cloud solution, which Autodesk has hosting services built on Amazon, as well as some of our most kind of secure customers use it as a local install on their own infrastructure. So in that case, it just depends on the scale, but Shotgun's built to serve extremely large creative teams, chugging through tons and tons of data at any given moment.
Okay, excellent. I think we're coming to the end. We've got a couple of questions which are a bit more technical. We'll send them to you because we don't want to get them wrong. We'll send them directly to you because I might do the wrong tone at the right time. Interesting, holding your hands with a shotgun. I misheard you, Phil. I said holding hands and taking you through shotgun was probably the right way to put that. But I did ask a question beforehand, Brandon, and I know you answered it, but if you don't mind, I would like to ask it again. Shotgun, it's not a kind of traditional naming for a product. Can you just give our audience a kind of outline on how it came about and why it's called Shotgun?
Yeah, I wasn't part of the naming, so I don't have the deepest history, but Shotgun comes from the animation and visual effects world, and working around shots is really big. A shot, obviously, if people don't know, is really a specific camera angle for a short period of time that you're looking at. Shots can have camera changes, but they're based on shots. The shot workflows, tracking shots is all a very core principle to animation and visual effects workflows. So Shotgun is the shot tracker, essentially. That's how it's got its name, and Shotgun tracks shots and sequences, but a lot more than that too. So that's actually where it came from.
Yeah, I think it's a very powerful name, and we sometimes are playing a bit safe in this world. So it's great that you guys have stuck with it. Phil, so this is series 3. We've got a bit of a break now. Do you want to give us some highlights of what's coming up after the summer break?
Absolutely, Abel. Yeah, we've got a couple of a few more webinars. We have one around some work that we're doing with our immersive sketching tool, Create VR, and we have a prototype of subdivision modeling, and we'll be able to show that. And Colin, I hope he's watching this because he's going to be doing it. Joking, Colin. We have we'll be doing this in September, where Colin and probably Sarah will be demonstrating it. Remember, Sarah and I did it last year. Colin and Sarah this year talking about it. It's really cool. I mean, it's subdivision modeling inside VR. Fantastic. And then we're going to have a couple of more VRED specific webinars. So I'll take a back step from that. Lucas will be fronting those. If he doesn't know, he knows now. So he'll be managing those events. So yeah, and so it's going to be a slight change in September onto some really new tech that we have coming, which is I can see it is pretty impressive. I'm really quite excited about it, especially the sub-D modeling in VR. The guys done a superb job, the development team, and it's blowing people away at the moment. So we'll be showing that as well as a lot of VRED stuff in September.
Excellent. So we've got lots to look forward to. I'd like to just wrap up by saying thank you to Lucas and Brandon and Phil, linking it beautifully together. I want to say thank you to our audience. If you've got any questions, please fire them over to Car Design News and we'll send them over to the team. Again, the recording will be within 24 hours on our website and the YouTube channel. And it just takes me to say thanks, guys. And we look forward to seeing you back here in September for the Autodesk live stream webinars.
Thanks, guys. Have a good vacation, everyone.
Thanks, guys.
Thank you, everybody.
Thanks, everybody.